into session, and we will, the Shasta County Board of Supervisors will recess and convene as the Shasta County In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority Governing Board. And I will advise that the Shasta County Board of Supervisors does not receive any additional compensation or stipend for acting as the Shasta County In-Home Supportive Services Public Authority Governing Board. We have one item to
move approval of consent item.
Second.
moved and seconded. This is to authorize the chair to sign an agreement with Becker and Bell Incorporated for a labor negotiation services. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The Shasta County In-Home Support Services Public Authority Governing Board will adjourn and convene as the Shasta County Water Agency. And the Shasta County Board of Supervisors does not receive any additional compensation or stipend for acting as the Shasta County Water Agency. We have one item here. This is to establish an overhead rate charge for the water agency to water contractors at $10 an acre foot for effective July 1st, 2012, and delegate the chief engineer of the water agency authority to enter into water contracts. Mr. Minturn.
Good morning, Chairman Modi, members of the board. Pat Minturn, Chief Engineer of the Water Agency. Before you today is an item that relates to our CVP contract. The county used to have a 5,000 acre foot contract, and Keswick had a separate 500 acre foot contract. And the purpose of the water agency contract was actually so that we could act as a wholesaler to small users within Shasta County. And so back in the 90s, a rate was established for that wholesale work, and it was $4 an acre foot actually delivered. You can have a contract for 5,000 acre feet but only be delivering 2,000 or 3,000. So it only applies to those that are actually take delivery. And of course, each of our contractors has a contract with us. We have a master contract with the Bureau of Reclamation, and then we have subcontracts with individuals and water districts and so forth. And only the Board of Supervisors, or actually the Board of Directors of the Water Agency, can enter into those agreements currently. In the CVP renegotiations, we assigned most of our water rights, water contracts, to those folks who were using them. Bella Vista got 500 acre feet. Centerville got 2,900 acre feet. Mountain Gate took their 1,000 acre feet. And the county was left with what was left over, which was a little over 1,000 between the combined Keswick and the water agency. And so we are now more of a miscellaneous wholesaler for folks like the construction contractor that came before this board a month ago. In this new, and also many of our customers are our own county service areas, Jones Valley, Keswick, and so forth. In this new environment, naturally, the contracting requirements are somewhat onerous for a contractor that comes in to have to enter into an agreement. Of course, that's always going to be necessary, but bringing it before the board for what was a relatively modest amount of water, I think it was $47 worth of water, the item came before the board. And so there was discussion at the time that perhaps it would be useful to streamline this. Of course, the board wants to have oversight over any sort of a long-term contract or any substantial amount of water. But staff felt that it was reasonable to propose a maximum of 5 years and 10 acre foot for any one contract. And so if a potential water user comes in with a need less than that, then that could be approved at the staff level potentially, assuming there's water available and assuming they're willing to pay and willing to sign our contract standard form, approved by county council, of course. 5 years is long enough, and 10 acre feet is enough water for a modest construction project. Of course, it's not enough to really make a difference to a major water user. Also, the overhead charge that was set back in the 90s of $4 an acre foot was appropriate when we were wholesaling thousands of acre feet. But now that we are only wholesaling hundreds of acre feet, and with inflation, and also the paperwork increases, and we've been hit in arrears with some bills from CVP, from the Bureau of Reclamation. They theoretically bill us each year based upon what their actual costs are for all of their experts and the folks that man the dams and the hydrologists and so forth. But then sometimes we get another bill a couple years later. And by the terms of our contracts, we're not able to recover that because the users have already gone on and done their work and paid their bills, and so we can't go back 3 years later to Bella Vista Water District, for instance, and say, oh, wait a minute, we owe another $3 an acre foot on that water, so we need to collect it from you. So staff's recommendation is to set it at $10 an acre foot. This still seems like a reasonable amount of money. We're only talking about approximately 350 acre feet that was delivered last year, so total cost for all the overhead expenses for the water agency there is about $3,500 a year. So that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them at this time.
Any questions of Mr. Minturn? Mr. Kehoe.
Mr. Minturn, 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph here, it indicates on the second page, water agency currently has 5 acre feet of water not under subcontract. What happened? What's the disposition of that water?
That water is not available for anyone's use. It's a buffer. So that is water that remains in Shasta Lake that we do not purchase from the Bureau, that we do not provide to anyone else. And it would be obviously, years ago, the former chief engineer of the water agency, Bill Lyman, realized that we need to use all the water. Before that, this 5,000 acre foot contract was viewed as being an asset that we could put in a vault somewhere and then pull out. And he realized we need to be using this water before the contract expires. So he aggressively marketed this to all the water districts. And that's why instead of 5,000 acre feet right now, we only have 1,000, because we were successful and it was just in time. So your point is poignant, that there's 5 acre feet here that is not being used, but on the other hand, it's clearly available to anybody that might come along that has a short-term need. So that 5 acre feet, I'm certain will not be used this year, but it is available to anybody that would need to come in and obtain a water right temporarily.
Since we're not using the 5 acres, does the Bureau sell it to other individuals, or do we have they do?
Yes, we have the option of purchasing up to 1,000 acre feet a year. If we only purchase 300, then there are also other users that aren't using their maximum as well. So the Bureau probably couldn't supply everybody. If the full face value of all their contracts, actually I know that for a fact, Westland's Water District had a contract years ago for 1 million acre feet, and they have never been able to take delivery. So they're cut back through reductions in diversions. In our particular case, that water stays in Shasta Dam, behind the Shasta Dam. It may be released for environmental purposes. It may be held over to subsequent years, so that would be available for us. It improves carryover storage. It improves recreation, but it is not marketed.
It is not marketed. Very good. Thank you.
A week or two ago, when we approved the 1 acre foot for the one, didn't that come from the 5 acre feet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll move approval. Second.
Moved and second. Any other discussion? Mr. Minturn, thanks for following our suggestion to come back and bring forth something. One question I do have for you is, although you limit it to 10 acre feet and 5-year maximum, if you had something that was what you consider to be controversial, you would have that option to bring it before the board?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you
Yes.
still, although we're giving you the authority to approve it, you still have the option to bring it to the board if you feel necessary.
Absolutely.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion, or opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Minturn.
Thank you.
The Shasta County Water Agency will adjourn and reconvene as the Shasta County Board of Supervisors. We will start with a legislative update from our CEO.
Thank you, Chairman Modi, members of the board. I will not spend much time on this. I just want to indicate the governor's May revise did come out yesterday, and the bad news is the budget deficit is as we expected. He's now putting it at $16 billion, and so that is going to create the opportunity for significant cuts to all those agencies that rely on state funding, as well as within the state. The problem is twofold, as we have talked about before. Number one, their expenses, the state expenses exceeded their projection, and also the revenue, they overestimated the revenue. So we actually called that. I mean, it wasn't news to us. We've been keeping you informed, and we knew this last summer that those revenues would not be there. So we'll continue to watch it and keep you informed as new news comes out. We've got specific programs that they're targeting, but it's yet to be determined how that is actually going to roll out. A lot of his savings are due, or not a lot, some of his savings are going to be through employee concessions. And when asked the question yesterday about, how that's going, he said, well, we haven't negotiated those yet. So, I mean, it's back to the bargaining table for all the units, and I imagine it's going to be a tough hill to climb for them. One interesting note that I picked up on as he was talking, there's clearly a division, and I guess we know this intuitively, that there's this divisiveness within the legislative parties. But when he was talking yesterday at the press conference, he made the comment that he says, well, we have the legislature and then we have the Republicans. And I found that to be an interesting, way to look at those that were clearly all legislators, but it's interesting. I'll continue to keep you informed, though. That's all I have.
Is that called spending money you don't have?
Absolutely. Might be.
Just was wondering. Mr. Hawes, we'll start at your end, please.
I have one item to report on. A few of us visited the Knopf plant last Friday and got a nice tour there. It's amazing, a 10-year time. And if I understand that right, they're using, under their air quality permit, they're only using about a quarter of what they originally were given to use. So they've reduced their emissions, which is totally amazing of a company. I just love to see the way it operates, and it's 24 hours a day, all year, except when they have to go down for maintenance or whatever, and shipping product all over the world. So there's an example of what Shasta County needs for good paying jobs. So very, very, very nice operation. Very nice. That's all I have.
Supervisor Hartman?
Well, I can't top that.
No.
I'll pass.
That's perfect, isn't it?
Supervisor Baugh?
I'll mention several from this last week. There was an enthusiastic and successful DARE graduation at Pacheco Elementary School, attended by Sheriff Pasenko, myself, and Assistant DA Josh Lowry. Someday I would like to have all of those kids come in this room and share their enthusiasm. If we could ever get them out of class to come in and share it, it would be exciting to see it here in the public venue. I also attended on behalf of the board and made presentations to at the Golden Umbrella Volunteer Recognition Dinner last week. And I think probably a lot of you read this morning's Record Searchlight. There's a great article about the foster grandparent program. That was one of the venues that was recognized last week in the volunteer presentations. Grandma Jerry, as she was referred to, that is featured in the Record Searchlight article, received a 23-year pin. And the amazing thing about receiving those recognitions for being a foster grandparent in the classroom is that you're not eligible to start the program until you turn 60. So that's kind of exciting. I appreciate Grandma Jerry and the literally hundreds of grandmas like that around the North State. And then I also attended the 50th Annual Cottonwood Mother's Day Rodeo and Parade. It was a great turnout, another wonderful parade. Significant for the community because of the 50th annual. One of the things I enjoyed most is Mary O'Keefe, last year's honorary mayor of Cottonwood, actually posed and did a reenactment of a photograph 50 years ago when she was in the first parade, and she dressed in the identical costume when she was a couple of years younger. But I thought that was very brave of her to do that and be featured in the parade. Good community spirit, and that's my report.
Supervisor Kehoe?
Thank you, Chairman Modi. Supervisor Hawes and I attended the local community benefit committee meeting. That's the distribution of Indian gaming funds. We were accompanied by Mr. Lees. It was, and I want to make mention of Ms. Megan Dorney. She's the one that put all this material together. Megan, you did an outstanding job. It's not easy to get all these politicians together in a room to arrive at a consensus for the allocation, but it was very nicely done, and I thank you for that. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I attended the Peace Officers Memorial on Thursday, and I think Supervisor Hartman was there. I'm not sure if some of my other colleagues, I think, were there as well. And just a very professional event, but also a very sobering reminder of the dangers to our law enforcement personnel, all of them here in Shasta County. We were fortunate this year, but they do a tremendous job for us. Very interesting to read about the 4 additional people that were added to the list from back in the late 1800s, and I think the latest was 1907. But if you get a chance to see the plaques that were presented to us by the state, they're very well done, and it has a great story behind each of as far as what occurred so many 100 plus years ago. Also attended the Sarassac Valley EMS board meeting, and if anybody would like to care to review the documentation, I'll have it upstairs for you. A reminder that the EMS Appreciation Day is May 23rd. Starts, it's at the Anderson River Park. It starts at 9, runs till 3. You can attend any time during that time period. And finally, there will be a Northern California Water Association meeting tomorrow, which I will not be able to attend because of some other commitments, but I will let the board know that I do have the paperwork here available for you, and the president of the director of the Northern California Water Association board will be here to make a presentation next week, so a good chance to hear about the issues with water and what's occurring throughout the state.
Good.
One other thing, don't we have a couple of officers that we're going to have some more bridges with their names in honor on those bridges? Ken Perigo was one of them, and I can't remember the name of the other.
Skip Sullivan, I believe is the other.
Skip Sullivan, okay.
That
That'll
is-
be nice, too.
Okay, we'll move on with R4. Consider providing direction to staff regarding the addition of members from the City of Reading and the City of Anderson to the Air Pollution Control Board. Mr. Lees.
Thank you, Chairman Modi, members of the board. As you recall, a few months ago, the City of Reading inquired as to the potential of them becoming or having representatives on the Shasta County's Air Pollution Control Board. With that, the Board of Supervisors directed staff to contact the other cities to test the level of interest for their participation also. As you know and can see by the report, the City of Anderson wanted to be included as part of the Air Pollution Control Board, as well as the City of Reading. The City of Shasta Lake has actually asked that their desire was not to be included. They understand the process and believe that, you know, if they had any comments or needed to have input, that they had the right and abilities to do that. With that, the current board, Air Pollution Board makeup is the 5 Board of Supervisors. As we looked at the potential, and you could see on page 2 of the staff report where you go into some different options, as staff looked at the potential, originally we thought that it would be best to maintain the expertise and the experience of the 5 existing board members, which are the Board of Supervisors, and then add 1 from each of the cities, 1 from the City of Reading and 1 from the City of Anderson. This is an open discussion for the board to determine what you believe would be best. On page 3 of the staff report, you do notice that the City of Reading and the City of Anderson has made suggestions of what they would like to ask the board to consider. But clearly the decision, as long as it remains within our legal parameters, which Mr. Cruz will make sure we do, and that's actually the options on page 1. The direction comes from this body, the Board of Supervisors, to determine exactly what you believe the makeup would be. It could certainly be a 5-member board with 3 members from the Board of Supervisors and 1 member from each city, or, you know, it's always my recommendation that we don't go for an even-numbered board. I think that runs into problems when you end up with not having a majority for something. And certainly that's why there's 5 Board of Supervisors, 5 City Council members, and that's why you don't see this even number of board members. But clearly the decision and the direction is you, and comes from you, and we're looking for that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Perhaps County Council can at least you may have some opinions to offer, but also, I know one of the suggestions from the city was to have a member at large, and I think I've heard some different comments, whether that's legal or not as well, so you may care to comment on that as well.
The system's delayed for some reason. Talking about it. It'll. It's going to go off again.
It's going to go off again? Okay. If it comes back on, if it goes back off, I'll fix it. The question was involving a member at large. As I read you,
Do we have the handheld microphone we could give to him?
Just use mine. Don't
I'll
push
share.
it. Don't push it.
Okay, I'm not pushing. Okay.
And don't pull either.
Don't push, don't pull.
Let's talk like that.
The question that was raised was concerning the member at large. As I read the particular code provision, it does not provide for a member at large. The Health and Safety Code section at issue provides for members of the Board of Supervisors to be on the Air Pollution Control Board, and also for either city council members or mayors from the incorporated cities. The statute was amended to allow for that sort of city membership, and as I read it, there's no provision in there for a member at large.
Thank you. That's your opening remarks at this point?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Well, the other question. I'm moving back and forth. The staff recommendation, just to clarify, was, as indicated, there was for a 7-member air pollution control board with membership determined by a particular health and safety code section. What that does is the way it works is that with a 7-member board, with this statute, it would result with having 4 members of the Board of Supervisors serving on the board, and the other 3 would be city council persons. This particular statute that's at issue indicates that if the cities and the county cannot agree on the composition, then it would be then divided up by half, because the incorporated cities have more than 50% of the county's population. So if, in that regard, if it was an even member number, then such as 6, then there would be 3 members of the Board of Supervisors on it and 3 city council persons. With an odd number, by statute, the number goes up for the board and down for the city, so that's why there would be 4 Board of Supervisors and 3 city council persons. Again, that's if we cannot agree on any other arrangements, but that's the statutory fallback. And I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. My board here is sort of all messed up, so I'm thinking Supervisor Hawes might be next. Did you want to speak or not?
Well, I did. I just wanted to.
You turn your mic on. You turn your mic on.
Oh, there it did. Okay. There's no stipend for those positions either, right?
No, there would be no stipend for those positions.
Okay. Supervisor Baugh, are you on?
I am, thank you.
It's just
I know, you got little flashing
everywhere.
lights there. In your report on page 3, it says, as an independent entity under California law, the Shasta County Air Quality Management District can sue and be sued. Does that mean, then, that once other entities, such as the cities, join and participate, that they also are subject to the penalties and the repercussions of a lawsuit?
Well, the city themselves would not be, because the Air Quality Management District is an independent entity. So whatever damages or otherwise would be imposed against the monies that exist or the funds for the Air Quality Management District. There are some provisions in the law that provide where if certain other funding sources aren't available, that there are assessments that are made against the members of the city, like the City of Reading, the City of Anderson, would have to be contributing to the funds of the Air Quality Management District if they have membership on the board.
Okay, and if we propose something that the cities are not happy with, you are saying they can reject that offer and that would revert back to your scenario that you just explained?
Right now, as explained, the statute, the way it's written, it does contemplate that the cities and the county will at least agree on a number,
Okay.
whether it be 7, 6, or something else. If that's all that can be agreed upon, then by statute, the membership is made up, it will be 1/2 of city council people, 1/2 of board of supervisors. If it's an even total number, such as 6, then it would be 3 and 3. If it's an odd number, such as 7, it would be 3 city council members, 4 supervisors. The board and the cities are also free to agree beyond the number concerning the composition as to how they think it would best be done. As Larry Lees had indicated, you could have 5 members of the Board of Supervisors and 2 city council people if they're amenable to that.
Thank you. And I also wanted to point out that Anderson City Manager Jeff Keyser is in the audience, and he may want to address the board as well. Thank you.
Supervisor Hartman.
Can you explain a little about the options regarding the city of Shasta Lake not wanting to participate?
The city of Shasta Lake is certainly free to be involved or not. By not being involved, that's certainly their right. They would not have a seat on the Air Pollution Control Board. At the same time, they would not have any sort of obligation to make any sort of assessments to the budget of the Air Quality Management District. But they can certainly comment, as any other individual can comment upon any particular action that's being done in the future.
Supervisor Kehoe.
Thank you, Chair Modi. I refer you to page 3, the section on financing of the Shasta County Air Pollution Control Board. Indicates that the fund balance which we have now will be exhausted in approximately 3 years. Now, I know they can't provide specific dollar amounts, but conceptually then, if the reserve has been exhausted, then we would look to all of the participants of the board to share in operational expenses?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And as I understand it, and Mr. Mull may also have some comments in this regard, but the way the statute's written is if those particular identified funding mechanisms are not available, such as the grants, subventions, the DMV fees, if that's not sufficient, then there's an annual per capita assessment on the cities that are participating as well as the county. And the assessment's imposed on the cities and the county on a quote, equitable per capita basis.
Thank you.
And I have one question. Who is ultimately responsible for the Air Management Quality Board? By statute, who does it fall upon if nobody wants to do it?
Well, if nobody wants to do it, I guess somebody has to do it, and Mr. Mull may be in the best position to answer that particular question, but there is supposed to be by statute, the de facto board of the Air Quality Management District is the Board of Supervisors. If I'm understanding your question correctly.
Yes.
And so unless there's agreement made otherwise, and until such time as we make agreement in order to continue to do operations, this board will then continue to operate as the Air Pollution Control Board. But certainly the statute contemplates that the cities and the county will work to at least work on agreement to a number, and then the fallback is this half and half, as I previously explained.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I certainly would give an opportunity for anybody from either of the cities would like to speak on this issue. We'd be happy to hear if they have any comments, and then if not seeing anybody jumping up to do that, then perhaps if Mr. Mull would care to weigh in on this or not. You certainly don't have to either if you'd like to.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Russ Mull, Air Pollution Control Officer. Really don't have much to say. We went through this exercise once before in 1994, and my recommendation is that simply that it be an odd numbered board. I can't even dream of working for an even numbered board with all the divisive issues that come up in the world. So I certainly recommend an odd-numbered board, and the number is frankly up to you folks. There was not agreement in 1994. The last letter that was sent by this board asked or indicated that it would be a 5-member board as currently configured, and 2 seats would be open to the cities, and that was essentially the last offer that this board made to the cities. So it's kind of a new slate now, and you can do as you choose.
Thank you, Mr. Molt. Okay, pleasure of the board.
I am inclined to move this forward with the recommendation of a 7-member air pollution control board, 5 members of the county, 2 to the city of Reading and the city of Anderson. My question of staff, however, is this. Well, let's leave that, and then under discussion I'll ask a question.
I'll go ahead and second, and then I'll have a follow-up item as well. Thank you. You wanted to discuss?
Okay, under discussion. I think you get to go first, Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Cruz, is this an irrevocable act if the board should go in this direction and the cities would agree with it? Can it be changed sometime in the future to maybe serve our end a bit more efficiently?
I would say that it's not an irrevocable act. Cities, of course, have the option, according to another provision in the code, to say that we don't want to have this anymore. They could pass resolutions that would say that they would no longer be participating in the situation. And I think also, since a lot of it is based upon agreement, a lot of this is based upon the agreements of the parties involved, that if the parties somehow feel that the current makeup is not satisfactory, they can work to change it based upon their agreement.
May I follow up on that? Let me give you, and I'm sure this is just a hypothetical, but let me give you this question. So indicates in the staff report our reserves are going to be maybe exhausted within 3 years. So let's say year 4 comes along and there is a financial liability to the cities. Can they opt out of the air board at that time?
Jeff, why are you smiling so big?
That is a possibility. I'd have to conduct some further research to have a definitive answer, because there's another statute that I don't have here in front of me. But I can see it as definitely it's a possibility.
Just a little follow-up. Would they be, if something occurred during the first 3 years prior to year 4 and they were on the board, would they be liable for some of that cost?
No, the city as an entity would not be liable for the cost. I mean, any actions that would be brought against the Air Quality Management District as a legal entity.
I think that the question is, though, would their participation hold them accountable to be assessed to make up the difference that occurred on their watch?
That's correct. During that 3-year period, if they were on and there was some assessment needed.
That's a question I don't have an answer to.
Mr. Vaughn.
Can we bill them in advance? No, I'm just getting a little
that
humor
I don't
there.
believe so.
I just wanted to say I think this is a step in the right direction, and from my perspective, I welcome the participation of the cities, both decision-making and financial contributions.
Other board members?
I think we're on the right track there about the financial contributions.
I have a question for Mr. Kehoe, I think, since you're the maker of the motion. The proposal was a 7-member board with 5 from the county and one each from the cities. If Shasta Lake City were to change their mind down the road, would you be amenable to having a 7-member board with 4 from the county? And then
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, the only thing I'd like to add to the comments is, first of all, I don't mind if the cities want to join, partake in the fun. That's fine with me. I'm more than happy to have them on the board. I will throw out that, if it's not broken, why are we trying to fix it a little bit? It seems like it's been just fine. I'm not aware of any issues that the cities have brought to us in the last 10 years on any particular matter. I mean, most stuff we do is so routine. But certainly if they want to be part of that, I think I welcome them. And I do absolutely agree that we should have an odd number board members, otherwise we'll have chaos, I think. So with that, I don't see any other discussion, so I will call for the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
City Manager Jeff Keyser, thanks again for being here today. Please say hi from the Shasta County Board to the Anderson City Council.
We'll move on with the closed session now. The Board of Supervisors will recess to a closed session to discuss the following items estimated to be 45 minutes. A conference of legal counsel on the existing litigation. And at the conclusion of closed session, reportable action, if any, will be reported in open session. We now recess and we will convene as the Air Pollution Control Board. Okay, I want to make it very clear that even though it takes a certain amount of time to get these things ready, the Board of Supervisors does not receive any compensation or stipend as a result of convening as the Shasta County Air Pollution Control Board, regardless of how long it takes. So, I will call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak to the Air Pollution Control Board, now is your time to step forward. Is anybody who wishes to talk? Seeing none, we will move on to consent calendar. The following consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, so we have to upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, interested person may request that an item be removed from the consent calendar for later discussion. We have one item, that's the minutes from our April 24th meeting. Move approved. Second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to our regular calendar scheduled hearings. Conduct a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing the fiscal year 2012-13 Air Quality Management District budget.
Now, this is the important part that they should have stayed for.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chairman Modi, members of the board. I'm Ryan Harmon, Chief Fiscal Officer. I'm here with recommendation for the board to have a public hearing to review the air quality district budget before it's approved the regular county budget. There's only one significant change with this budget from prior years, and that's the fact that our state lower bus emissions school bus program is actually coming to an end after this year, and so that's about $2 million in the budget this last year that won't be there. We were primarily a pass-through on that. We did get some administrative funds for administering the program, but the majority of the funds went to the school buses. And are there any questions?
Any questions of staff? Seeing none on my board, and I think it's halfway accurate, then I will open the public hearing. Anybody wish to speak on this particular item, please come forward. Seeing none. Hearing is closed. Pleasure of the board. Moved by Mr. Haas. Second by Supervisor Hartman. Any other discussion?
For clarification, what is Supervisor Haas moving approval of?
Staff recommendation, the budget approval.
Staff, as I understand, staff's recommendation is to conduct a public hearing for the exclusive purpose of reviewing the thing, so that we're not adopting the budget today, is that correct?
Oh, we're not.
Correct.
Okay.
It gets adopted with the county budget, the whole county budget.
Oh, okay.
Then I guess we don't need a motion then.
There.
That's correct.
Yeah, we held the public hearing.
We're having a good day, aren't we?
You know,
Yes, we
maybe
are.
you guys should have wore those life preserver things that blew up and stuff. And so. Then, Ms. Harmon, thank you for coming forward today. I think we're done.
There was a life preserver.
I was just trying to make sure that we were on top of things.
reservers.
And we will adjourn the Air Quality Management Board.